Our story begins in the small, isolated town of Pine Hollow, nestled deep within the Appalachian Mountains. The air was thick with the scent of pine and damp earth, a reminder of the recent rain that had left the ground slick and muddy. As I walked down the narrow dirt road, the towering trees loomed overhead, their branches swaying gently in the cool breeze, whispering secrets I couldn't quite understand. The townsfolk often spoke in hushed tones about the old cabin at the edge of the woods, a place where shadows danced and the past lingered like a bad memory. I felt a chill run down my spine, a premonition that something was waiting for me in the darkness. As I approached the cabin, the air grew colder, and the sounds of the forest faded into an unsettling silence. The cabin stood like a sentinel, its wooden walls weathered in gray, with vines creeping up the sides as if trying to reclaim it for nature. I hesitated at the door, my heart pounding in my chest, the stories of disappearances echoing in my mind. The locals warned me about the last family that lived here, how they vanished without a trace, leaving only whispers behind. With a deep breath, I pushed the door open, the creaking hinges sounding like a warning bell. Inside, the air was stale, filled with the scent of mildew and decay. I stepped cautiously, my footfalls muffled by the thick layer of dust that coated the floor. The walls were adorned with faded photographs of a family long gone, their smiles frozen in time, eyes seeming to follow me as I moved. I could almost hear their laughter, but it quickly turned to whispers warning me to leave. A chill crept up my spine as I noticed a trapdoor in the corner, its edges worn and inviting, as if it had secrets begging to be uncovered. Compelled by an unseen force, I knelt beside the trapdoor, my heart racing as I grasped the handle. With a deep breath, I pulled it open, revealing a dark staircase that spiraled down into the unknown. The air that wafted up was cold and damp, carrying with it a faint, musty odor that made my stomach churn. I hesitated, the stories of the missing family echoing in my mind, but curiosity pushed me forward. I grabbed a flashlight from my bag, its beam cutting through the darkness as I descended, each step creaking ominously beneath my weight. As I reached the bottom of the stairs, I found myself in a small, dimly lit cellar. The walls were lined with jars filled with strange, murky substances, and the air was thick with the smell of something rotten. In the center of the room stood an old wooden table, covered in dusty relics and faded maps. My heart raced as I noticed a journal lying open, its pages yellowed and brittle. The handwriting was frantic, detailing the family's descent into madness, their fear of something lurking in the woods, something that called to them in the night. As I read the journal, a sense of dread washed over me. The family had become obsessed with the forest, convinced it was alive, that it was watching them. They spoke of whispers in the pines, of shadows that moved on their own, and of a presence that beckoned them deeper into the woods. My hands trembled as I turned the pages, the last entry chilling me to the bone. "We can hear it calling. We must go." Suddenly, a loud crash echoed from above, jolting me from my thoughts. I froze, heart pounding, as the sound of footsteps creaked on the floorboards above. Panic surged through me as I realized I wasn't alone. I scrambled to my feet, the journal slipping from my grasp and landing with a soft thud on the floor. The footsteps above grew louder, accompanied by a low, guttural whisper that sent chills down my spine. I rushed back to the staircase, my heart racing as I climbed, desperate to escape whatever had invaded the cabin. But as I reached the top, the door slammed shut, trapping me inside. I pounded on the wood, my voice echoing in the silence, but the only response was the whispering that seemed to surround me. Desperation clawed at me as I turned back to the cellar, searching for another way out. The whispers grew louder, swirling around me like a storm, urging me to listen, to understand. I spotted a small window, high on the wall, its glass cracked and dirty. Climbing onto the table, I reached for it, my fingers brushing against the cool surface. Just as I was about to break the glass, a shadow darted past the doorway, freezing me in place. I turned slowly, dread pooling in my stomach as I faced the darkness. The shadow lingered at the edge of the doorway, its form indistinct but undeniably menacing. I could feel its gaze on me, a weight that pressed down on my chest. The whispers intensified, a cacophony of voices urging me to flee, to escape the cabin and the horrors it held. I took a step back, my heart racing. And in that moment, the shadow lunged forward, revealing a face twisted in anguish, eyes hollow and pleading. I stumbled back, my breath hitching in my throat, as I realized this was the spirit of the last family, trapped in a cycle of despair. In that moment of terror, I understood the truth. The family hadn't vanished. They had become part of the forest, bound to the cabin by their fear and despair. The whispers were their cries for help, a warning to anyone who dared to enter. I felt a surge of empathy for the lost souls, but I knew I had to escape. With a newfound determination, I turned back to the window, ready to break free from this nightmare. As I smashed the glass, the whispers turned to screams, echoing in my ears as I climbed through the opening. I tumbled out of the window and landed hard on the forest floor, the cold earth grounding me in reality. I scrambled to my feet, heart racing as I glanced back at the cabin, now shrouded in darkness. The whispers faded into the night, replaced by the sounds of the forest coming alive around me. I ran, branches scratching at my skin, the weight of the cabin's secrets lifting with each step. As I broke through the tree line, the moonlight bathed me in its glow, a stark contrast to the darkness I had just escaped. As I reached the edge of Pine Hollow, I turned to look back at the cabin one last time. The whispers had quieted, but I could still feel the weight of the lost souls pressing down on me. I knew the stories would continue, that the cabin would lure in the next curious soul, just as it had done for generations. But I had escaped, and with that knowledge came a bittersweet relief. I vowed to share the truth of Pine Hollow, to warn others of the darkness that lay within the woods, and the whisper that would never truly fade. In the days that followed, I shared my story with anyone who would listen. The townsfolk were skeptical at first, but as I recounted the details of the cabin and the family's fate, their expressions shifted from disbelief to concern. They spoke of the legends, of the whispers that had haunted Pine Hollow for decades. I realized then that the cabin was not just a place of horror. It was a reminder of the past, a warning to those who dared to forget the stories that shaped their lives. As the weeks turned into months, I found solace in sharing the tales of Pine Hollow. The whispers became a part of my life, a reminder of the fragility of existence and the importance of remembering those who came before. I often returned to the edge of the forest, standing vigil for the lost souls, hoping to honor their memory. The cabin remained, a dark silhouette against the moonlit sky, a testament to the horrors that lay within and the stories that would never be forgotten. And so, the story of Pine Hollow continued, woven into the fabric of the town's history. The whispers in the pines became a cautionary tale, a reminder of the darkness that could lurk just beyond the familiar. I knew that as long as the cabin stood, the stories would live on, echoing through the trees, waiting for the next curious soul to listen. And perhaps, in some way, the lost family would find peace, their whispers finally heard by those willing to remember.